It's very important that you plan for cognitive and functional impairment. Clients with co-occurring disorders are more at risk for having cognitive or other functional impairments that affect their ability to understand information and complete tasks. So it's very important that you're aware of this and that you assess it on an individualized basis, because obviously you don't want to assume everyone has a significant cognitive impairment, because that's not going to be true, but some may, and some may have varying degrees of cognitive and functional impairment that you'll want to address. So as a clinician or as a therapist or as a treatment provider, you want to make sure that you can adequately assess and respond to the specific unique needs of that person. Some of the ways in which you can tailor interventions include having short, highly structured treatment sessions. So it might mean having, two 45-minute sessions instead of a 90-minute session, so that people have the opportunity to fully participate and understand the information. If you find that your 90-minute group is starting to lose focus and not continue to achieve benefit, you might want to adjust that into 2 shorter sessions. You can also, the short, highly structured treatment sessions, you could also decide to have your treatment shift a little bit, try to mix it up a little bit. So if you tend to have primarily discussion and didactic, and it seems too long that the person is not able to attend, including other types of modalities like video clips or visual aids or repetition or group activities and ways experiential learning opportunities can be helpful to break that up. Pacing is important. You don't want to go too fast when working with someone. You want to make sure that you match the pace. Of course, you don't want to go too slow either, because you might lose some people. So again, adjusting to the needs of the particular person can be important. And then again, this importance of focusing on practical life problems. I think of this concept as being very similar to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I'm sure many of you have heard of. If someone comes in to see you and you want to help them, have a better relationship with their mother, but they don't have a place to live. It can be really difficult for them to focus on the goal that may actually be a very important goal, but they don't even know where they're going to sleep tonight, or they don't know how they're going to eat, or they don't know how they're going to feed their kids. I mean, it's really important to focus on some of those basic level needs in order to move to something that might be very important, but not quite as important to them in the moment as where they're going to find their next meal. It's important to assess impairments and have consistent treatment planning. So making sure that you are considering where that person is and where how best to meet their needs. Now, it doesn't really fit in this category because it's not a cognitive and functional impairment, but you do the same thing if you're working with individuals where English is a second language. So you'd want to make sure you're doing this assessment of where that person is, what their understanding is, and how do you adjust treatment in order to ensure that they get the most information out of it and that they can fully participate. It's the same type of process. And then finally, 6 is use and leverage support systems to maintain and extend treatment effectiveness. This mutual self-help movement is very, very critical. There are numerous groups out there that can be helpful to individuals. Some of those groups include Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Recoveries Anonymous, Schizophrenics Anonymous, And there are also self-help groups that are applicable to co-occurring disorders, like dual recovery, mutual self-help programs. So you can have individuals who are working with other self-help group members who also have similar challenges to them. So there's this emphasis in the self-help movement, and this is one of the reasons why it can be really helpful. There's this emphasis on personal responsibility, self-management. You know, how does that person own and take care of themselves and their own issues, as opposed to the treatment model, which may be a little bit more of a provider helping profession, helping extend skills, helping establish goals and helping them to meet those goals. The self-help movement can be more focused on how that person takes accountability for themselves and engages in self-management. You know, there has been a significant movement in improving integrated health overall. Integrated health meaning the whole person care. So if a person has a co-occurring disorder of depression and alcohol abuse, but also has a diagnosis of diabetes, how do you help that person connect with the appropriate treatment providers and ensure that their treatment is working in sync? So this concept of self-management is being discussed and explored and expanded throughout all of those areas. So self-management is essentially the skills that we have for managing our own life and our own conditions. So if I had diabetes and substance use and depression, you know, how am I as an individual skilled in taking care of those needs? And taking care of them may be showing up for my doctor's appointments, taking my medication, getting a good night's sleep. It could be making sure that I have social support and have a balanced life. So those self-management skills can be incorporated in any point, not just the self-help movement, but can be very, very important part of ensuring that that person is starting to take ownership of their life and their own health care. So another sense of support system that can maintain treatment effectiveness is this concept of building a community. There are specific treatments or interventions as well as specific models that can do this, like the therapeutic community or Double Trouble as a treatment model. Or Double Trouble is this building community model. So think as you're going through, you know, how are other ways that you can help individuals build this sense of community through self-help group and through their current social network. And then also reintegration with family in the community, assisting with facing the fragility of recovery, the toxicity of past environment and past relationships, and the negative impact of past associates. So at some point in the process of treatment, ensuring that you're figuring out how to help this person reintegrate with the family that may have exacerbated some of their substance use in the beginning, or the community that they had friends who were using. You know, how do you assist them with reintegration to the extent that they can? It might be that reintegration means being able to communicate with family but not living there. You know, if living there is too disruptive to the person's recovery. Could also be being able to develop new family connections and new community connections that do not have that element of toxicity that person experienced before. So let's move on to the second half that we're going to talk about today, which include the core components for effective delivery of services. So the first component of effective delivery of services includes this concept of providing access. So access is the process in which a person with co-occurring disorders makes contact with the services that you provide. So that how do they contact you? How do they find you? How do they know who to go to? When they call, who answers the phone? How many times do they have to be transferred or on hold? Are they received by someone who is welcoming and knows how to help them? How do they receive an evaluation? And are they welcomed into appropriate treatment? It's important to ensure that you have this no wrong door philosophy. So regardless of whether you're a mental health center or a substance abuse treatment center or a community health center, that if a person shows up, that's not my population, that's your population. Instead of that message, ensuring that you're sending the message that I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. Even if I need to refer you to another place, I'm going to make sure that I refer you, that you get there, that you know how to get there, and they're waiting for you. So making sure that you're taking ownership as an individual provider as well as an organization to ensure that people get what they need and no one falls through the cracks. So, what is the process for routine access for people who are not in crisis? So how do people get in the door? What does crisis access look like for people who need emergency services? And is there outreach to target individuals in great need, like homeless individuals who may not access ordinary routine or emergency services? So that might be a process of sending someone to the mission, or sending someone to the jail, or making sure you're developing special programming that might meet the needs of women who have young children, or people who just don't have a lot of transportation services available to them. And then also this access for involuntary, coerced, or mandated by the criminal justice system, by employers, or the child welfare system. I would recommend that you look very closely at the procedures that you employ for people who are court-ordered or who are there because they are trying to get their children back. Often there are sometimes there can actually be punitive barriers to getting treatment because someone is mandated. And it's important to note that just because someone's mandated by their probation officer, by the courts, these are the people that you actually could make quite a bit of progress with, because you have a carrot, you have a stick, you have this ability to work together where there are incentives and consequences to behavior. That this is actually a pretty good scenario where someone could make a lot of progress. So don't assume that just because someone is court-ordered that automatically there's someone who doesn't want to be there, because those are some cases that can actually be some of the most successful cases.